let's look back at 2017 and see what games were released. Yeah, we had Breath of the Wild, Odyssey, Prey, Nier Automata, Destiny 2, Horizon Zero Dawn, a few unknown classics in there like Fortnite and PUBG, and oh, right, this game. To say this game released to a mixed reception would be a statement of questionable validity. This game launching with peer-to-peer multiplayer effectively neutered its growth significantly for the entirety of its life. But if you're anything like me, you probably saw its revealed trailers and beta footage and went, hey, that sure looks fun, and then you saw the Crow Cat For Honor video, walked away and totally forgot about it for 4 years. I literally digested nothing about this game for the last 4 years before returning, or rather entering it, a few weeks ago. For what it's worth, I experienced practically no bugs, apart from this.
Me on this ladder.
You captured Zone C.
What the heck?
But coming to the game now is, like with any multiplayer game before release, overly confusing, poorly explained, and convoluted. It's not really unreasonable this is the case. After all, you can't really expect a tutorial to manage to teach you half a decade of balance updates, but in For Honor's case, the confusion started at buying the game. There's a whopping 4 editions, and they're all so poorly explained. How did you manage this? There's graphics on the Steam page that, once again, do a terrible job of explaining what you're actually going to be getting, alongside some pretty predatory practices. The starter edition starts you off with 3 dudes, 1 from each faction, and 3 from a faction you pick at the start. So much at the start, in fact, that you don't know what any of them are or do. The Pick Your Faction screen at the start might as well be a question of which historical figures you like the most, because what characters you'll actually be unlocking you don't know! The Standard Edition gives you an extra 6 on top of this. What characters? I have no idea! They don't tell you! The Marching Fire Edition, which is $20 more than the Standard Edition, may or may not come with the standard's extra 6 characters. I genuinely have no idea because of how this is laid out. None of their graphics explain it properly. What makes all this sting so much more in retrospect is that the game itself, For Honor, is genuinely incredible. As for the art direction, it looks absolutely gorgeous for a 360 title, and while it might be a weird thing to focus on, the sound design is genuinely impressive.
Stay here. Stay here. Die.
Okay.
The clanking of armor and chainmail as you run around sounds super authentic, and you'd definitely miss it if it was gone or done worse. The combat is really fun, it feels pretty balanced all around, and there's a really good variety in characters, flail, and if you're decent enough you can tap into your raw gamer energy and win fights where you're outnumbered, and it feels fantastic. This ties a bit into my next point. Are the animators at Ubisoft okay? Are they okay with the state of humanity? I hope so, but I sure don't think so. There are literally hundreds of absolutely gorgeously animated execution animations. Some are a little outrageously wacky, but all of them are breathtakingly good. The rest of your character customization is also horrifyingly in-depth. The armor itself also never delves into Halo 5 territory, and it all looks pretty plausible, if some a little bit more yone than others. Wait, this game has a story? After playing the campaign through, it was actually surprisingly enjoyable. The setting is completely nonsensical, and the devs knew that and ran with it. There are 3 campaigns, one for each of the 3 mainstay factions, bar China, the Wulin. The Knight storyline is by far the best. The Viking campaign blows, and the Samurai campaign is just kind of okay. The Knight's campaign is actually centered around characters, and gives your Warden character development as they grow more disillusioned with the main antagonist.
They embrace each other like they were all kin. But that is all a lie. When night falls, they stab each other with their knives. If there are wolves among them, should we not set them free?
Said main antagonist is also someone so comically evil it's just hysterical. Her whole goal in life is to set everyone at war all the time, because war brings out all the psychopaths. You kill her like 4th in command in the first chapter, and then get recruited by her organization for doing so.
You will be my second.
All right then.
For valor in battle, for honor and service, I, Holden Cross, raise you. Stand, Knight of the Blackstone Legion.
I really like this setup. Her whole manifesto is to find the wolves of society, evidenced by her saying it every other line.
There's no wolf in me.
Which is exactly what she does with the Warden. The Viking campaign essentially has no characters, and boils down to Lamau smack Japanese people for blunder.
So? What do they tell you?
I don't speak Japanese.
The Samurai campaign also barely establishes any characters either, but has this nice moment where you forgive a war criminal.
Take my place. Command our armies.
You've gone mad.
You also beat up the Warden you created in the first campaign for practically no reason. And by fight, I mean you shove them up against a geyser 3 times.
I was right. You are the Emperor's champion.
The difficulty throughout remains pretty consistent, apart from this mission which has a difficulty spike the size of a Shigoki. I also really liked the ending a lot, where all the factions unite to take down the main antagonist, and as she dies, she reveals that it was sort of all as planned type of thing, where all the factions now brought together to fight her will turn on each other, and her goal of total war will be completed. I have absolutely no idea why you don't play as the Warden when you fight her though. It would have made for some semblance of a full character arc. You'll notice I really only touched on story beats there, and that's because the actual missions themselves are nothing to write home about at all. They're not just bot matches with story elements, as they do have unique gameplay, but it's not interesting at all. It works for the game though, especially as a sort of developed extra tutorial. As for the actual game, there's 4v4 Dominion, 2v2s, and 1v1s, effectively. Any of the game mode is just dead. 1v1s and 2v2s are very simple and straightforward. You spawn in front of an opponent, beat the crap out of each other until one of you is dead, and then in 2v2s you can either go gank the poor bastard who's still alive, or honorably watch them fight as you wait for your turn.
It's really hard to carry this character. The very Mars character is really hard.
Dominion is a bit like if you took Titanfall's attrition and mashed together with domination from something like Call of Duty. Every map has 3 points, one with mooks and the other 2 only capturable by players. If you stand on the 2 points that only players can capture, you heal over time. That's really it. Come on, Trip. Come on. Come on. No!
Morphine administered.
There is incentive to sit and defend a point, as if you have a player on a point, it doubles the amount of funny points you get from it over time. In practice though, this basically means one of you has to sit back menacingly on the point and watch everyone else have fun. Once the team reaches one of these thresholds, their opponents start breaking, which is like sudden death for that team exclusively. If everyone dies, that team loses, but if they can cap a point to put the enemy team back under their threshold, you rally and stop breaking. Is he okay?
No. I don't think he's gonna make it.
I think this system absolutely rocks. It puts the tension of the match fully in your hands, and with the rather incredibly designed combat system, it means that any team can come back. Like in this match, where my friends and I were completely broken for 5 full minutes, and then we got over our breaking threshold less than 0.1 seconds before we lost the game, won one more fight, and then won the game.
This was the stupidest thing.
Wait, I can't believe we won that. Holy shit, we held the line.
The reason you straight up lose after 5 minutes is to make it so that a monk running around the map like a headless chicken won't win the game, although I think it'd probably be better if it made the enemy team break instead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, he's gonna fuck pig now. Yeah.
The main unfortunate part of the game is, rather understandably, its age. Playing the game now, you're pretty likely to run into the Amogus squad every now and then who've played the game since launch, and then get absolutely creamed as they parry all of your attacks as you go to cry and uninstall. Well, that and the god-awful gear system is a pretty big detriment. Better gear means you get more perks that are literal minor straight upgrades to the character, which are locked behind leveling that character up to several hundred levels to Prestige 7. This sounds okay, but disincentivizes you from trying different characters. And also, why is there a cap on items if you have to salvage them one by one extremely slowly? I don't intend to touch on balance much, as I'm simply not tuned to it very well. For the most part, I think it's pretty fair and even, however there's some classes which are noticeably more irritating than others, like Centurion. I wouldn't necessarily say unbalanced though, just incredibly annoying. Get good is a pretty valid response to these criticisms though. And do note, I play one of the easiest characters in the entire game because my brain is the size of a peanut and I'm also an edgelord. The bots are surprisingly competent. High-level ones were actually programmed by complete amoral psychopaths and can do some impressively advanced mix-ups.
What the fuck?
That's what I'm saying, Mark. Look.
Oh my god, bro, you're getting fucking schmitzed. Oh, and the little funny faint thing on that. Alright. You're getting it, but it's like kind of doing the fuck out of you. Alright, it hits you with the tip of the bar.
Map design has some questionable choices. Like, all of them have a weird focus on environmental kills. For Honor is effectively a third-person fighting game, so it's basically the equivalent of ring-outs, and there's a lot of them. It's a bit like if in Tekken, the middle of the ring was a ring-out. Some that are instant kills really feel like they either shouldn't murk you instantly or be there at all. At least Warmonger has a fun time using her parry gimmick to send people off the map. The environmental kills can also be completely hilarious, so it's definitely not a design choice that is wholly bad.
Wow, wow, wow! I'm proud of you.
I could've got the execution, but I decided.
That was fucked up, I love it.
Plunging attacks being an instant kill is also questionable, but equally hilarious. Should you play the game? I don't fucking know. I certainly think it's really fun, but I'd only recommend it if you're content with two things. Playing only one character, ever, and being willing to get sent to the Shadow Realm by the Amogus squad occasionally. A new season starts today, and they have the audacity to brag about dedicated servers in the description? Now, I know you and anyone else that watches my videos has wanted to give me money constantly, so after getting cyberbullied for about a month, I caved and made a Patreon. Link will be in the description from now on in my About page. I really dislike when creators hide a bunch of content behind a Patreon paywall, so I'm not going to be doing that. This is purely if you want to support me because you have too much money. And, as a bonus, I won't be turning into a pedophile or a Nazi in a few years. Thanks to Emily and Luke for giving me money already. Seriously, what is wrong with you?